Welcome. Deep dive. My name's Jaws, obviously. And finally, I've got Kerr. And I did want to read out a few things before we kind of got into this. So I did a little bit of digging. October 11th, 2011. Just bought a bulk pack of 90 airheads off Amazon for $7. October 23rd, 2013. Holy crap, I'm the shittiest caster ever. Hashtag keep on trucking. And May 4th, 2017. I'll be a duck owner one day, maybe 2 ducks. Either way, it's going to happen. I thought I'd bring up those snippets of history from your past there.
So you're on your Nardwar era right now.
Yeah.
You're doing some deep... I mean, this is called the deep dive, right?
Yeah.
So let's go through these real quick. What was the first one again? I'll tell you the situation.
October 11th, 2011. Just bought a bulk pack of 90 airheads off Amazon for $7. What was your line of thinking on that?
So I was 21. Believe it or not, that was around the time I got my first credit card. I know it took a while for me to get my first credit card. One of the first things I did, make an Amazon account, and on Amazon, I was like, man, you can buy candy on here? So, and I loved airheads, so I bought them, and I have no self-control when it comes to candy. So I ate all of it in one day. I got sick. That was when I was a shut-in nerd living with my parents, just streaming all day, and you know, give me access to candy, I'll eat all the candy. So that was that. What was the second one?
Second one was October 23rd. Yeah, 2013. Holy crap, I'm the shittiest caster ever. Hashtag keep on trucking.
Yeah. So I wanted to become a caster in TF2. I was a producer in TF2 for Team Fortress TV. I did the observing. That was basically production for Team Fortress TV. Be an observer with OBS open. And that's what I did. And then I got a chance to cast. I think my first ever cast was with Mr. Slin. And Mr. Slin, if you don't know Mr. Slin, do some research. That man has done everything. He works for Twitch now. But he hard carried me in the cast. And in a small community like TF2, the criticism is pretty brutal because it's such a tight-knit community. I mean, in any casting position, the criticism is super brutal. Like I'm seeing it on Twitter all the time right now. The butting heads of producers and casters and casters and casters. It's not fun to read. But anyway, I was very bad at casting, which is why I became a producer. Well, and I was very aware of it right from the jump. I did it for like a year. But yeah.
Trust me, I assume you popped off. I don't believe those lies. Okay, yeah. The last one, May 4th, 2017. I will be a duck owner one day, maybe 2 ducks. Either way, it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think that was just... I just think I like ducks at that time. Ducks were like S tier at that point for animals for me. They dropped significantly since 2014, man. They don't like. Have you ever been around a duck for an incredibly long, or I wouldn't even say an incredibly long time, like an extended period of time?
Yeah, they're annoying. They're loud and they just kind of shit everywhere, basically.
Yep. I don't want a duck. I'm not going to be a duck owner one day. You got to put like donkeys and like otters at like the S tier. Those are some good animals. Have you seen a donkey before?
They do seem very personable. Like you could really be like good friends with a donkey.
Yeah, it's like a horse, but it's not like all muscle and kind of scary. It's just cute and adorable.
And otters are pretty wicked.
Yeah, otters are just full of personality. So anyway, that was a fun start.
That's good. No, I like that. No, I honestly, yeah, I think around that time, 2017, maybe a little bit before too, there was a lot of like, I don't know if you feel this, but like the old internet, like 10 years ago, like it had a very different feel to it. And like that was epic seeing like videos on maybe with like really bad smartphones of like people's like pet ducks and stuff like that. That was like weird back then. And you saw that and you were like, wow, that's actually pretty cool. Like maybe that's what kind of inspired that tweet, is that you wanted to...
I genuinely don't know. I think I may have I was just bored trying to be an influencer before an influencer happened. And I'm just like, I need to post content online. My fans need to see this. When I had like 1,000 followers on Twitter and I thought I was famous.
I did wonder about the casting tweet, because That's quite interesting. You obviously were into the TF2 scene. Well, you still are, really. I mean, you've not exactly
It's the best
like,
game ever
left.
created.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Germa apparently is maybe coming back to TF2. He said in one of his streams recently. He said maybe MVM. I don't know if that was sarcastic or not, but yeah.
He means he'll do 2 hours of a stream, get DDoSed, and then probably won't play it for a few years.
That's enough. That's enough.
I mean, the game's super fun. It's just hard to stream.
Yeah, that's the big problem. I remember Bren streaming it like, I don't know, like 6 months ago or something, and I hopped in as well, and like we played together, and we were like messing around and stuff, and I'm like, the servers are gonna get DDoSed any second.
I actually don't think that happens anymore, but that was like, those are some bad memories. Like the final years of me streaming TF2, that was like the thing. There's like a small community of people. I wouldn't say community, just like probably like a Discord of people that just, anybody streaming TF2, let's DDoS them. Let's DDoS their server. Let's stream snipe them and hack. And it was probably really fun for them. They should have like made content out of it or something, but
do people like watching that kind of content though? I mean, I guess there's a niche for everything. People hacking and stuff.
That was, do you remember, man, this is a deep dive. We're on the deep dive. Have you ever heard of Goron City? It was like the OG like trolling videos on YouTube with like Counter-Strike 1.6. It was just a group of people that probably were on Ventrilo all day that would just, they would record themselves like hacking in servers and just people reacting to it. It was very popular content back in the day. And looking back now, it is not really that funny, but back in the day, it was so funny to me. And I don't think, I mean, I think nowadays people don't like trolling content, including myself. It's really just kind of embarrassing to watch people be mean to each other. But back in the day, that was the best.
That was the bee's knees.
Seriously. It really was. I was like 19, like, these guys are so funny. Oh man, he's raging.
It's I don't know if you remember these ones, because you probably will, because these were the more popular ones, because I've not heard of Goron City, but the Ventrilo harassment videos where they go in and they like pretend to be Duke Nukem or like someone else, and they're like, hey, and they dude, the technology back then, to their credit, like, you can barely get this kind of stuff working now, but like instantly recording someone and then playing their voice back through a mic, like, that is some crazy kind of setup for like way back then. But I remember, well, it's the 14, what was it? 4 strength, 4 stam, leather belt, like that classic World of Warcraft one.
Yeah.
And they just jump into a random public WoW Ventrilo. It's like, and the guy goes, 4 strength, 4 stam, leather belt, level 18. Like, that for me was like the cool trolling videos, was like the WoW ones. But man,
that reminds me, there's this old video, you know, that video of just like the iPhone, it's like the futuristic iPhones and like Xbox video that's like a meme. Do you remember that? It's like the fake, the Xbox 720.
Yeah,
that video is actually made by like a developer of Fortnite.
Like,
what? So the reason I am on this thought pattern is because of videos like that, like people that just make stupid videos, stupid content back in the day. I wonder what they're up to now, like, because they were able to create such strange stuff.
Yeah,
that type of person works for high res, or not high res.
Epic.
Yeah, they're like one of the lead developers of Fortnite. It's just some guy that makes like, let me find this video, hold on, YouTube. I'm sorry, this is just ruining the pod right now.
This is fine.
This is just
before we jumped on the call, I said I hate calling this a podcast, but that's technically what it is. But it's more of like, I like to think as like an interview. But I do know what you mean, because those 720 videos, PlayStation 6, PlayStation 5's, like before obviously the modern day now. It's just like those videos were so synonymous of like old internet. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so the video I linked, obviously we're not gonna be able to watch it right now, but it's called Future Gen Consoles Wii 2, PS4, Xbox 720 ? And it has the Let the Bodies Hit the Floor soundtrack with a slideshow of just ridiculous looking software. And then the description just says, "Update. It's been a long time since I made this video, smiley face. I now work on the Fortnite team at Epic Games. Funny how things turn out. Follow me on Twitter, Epic
Dude,
Ghosty."
are you kidding me? That's crazy. The come up is real from making just stupid Fortnite, no, stupid Xbox 720 meme videos to working on the Epic Games team making Fortnite. Like, to be fair, like back then too, you even think about these custom images people made, and it's like there's a little bit of there's skill in that making that kind of thing. Like a lot of it is very satire, like the Wii 2 and stuff like that, which turned out to be the Wii U, which was a terrible console. But it's like a little silly how we kind of perceive those back then as like, oh, this is such a stupid video. And it's like, well, actually, if you look at it, kind of skillful, like making these images, creating these 3D renders. Because the 720 I have in my mind is the sphere, and it just looks like the original Xbox logo, and then it's got like a disk drive, or like it pops up at the top, and then you put the disc, and everybody was like, "Yo, that's crazy!"
Yeah, those type of videos actually like baited people back in the day.
Yeah,
and I know we're just on like some nostalgia trip right now, but yeah, people that make that meme content actually have jobs in social media right now. They're like actual social media managers. Like, for example, in Valorant Sentinels, their entire brand is just their social media manager being great. Like obviously their team was good when the game first launched, which helped. But if their social media management wasn't as good as it is, like it's just baiting posts, going viral with like every one of their tweets, like having that edge, it's essentially their entire brand. It's amazing how much impact just one person behind a computer could have. And hopefully that person is getting paid out the ass, by the way. I don't know if that works in the Overwatch League or any other esport, but the Sentinels Twitter account managers are just next level.
Those goated. Yeah,
are there any in Valorant, or excuse me, in Overwatch?
Yeah, the Shock, which is the Shock, which is like the NRG people. Sen, who does all the social media management for the Overwatch and some of the stuff for the main NRG Twitter, they are really good. Like they, any kind of like weird but like super fresh meme or like anything that comes out in the cultural zeitgeist, like they are on that shit like crazy. Like the Shock Twitter goes hard. Then recently a lot of the social media managers have been stepping up their game. Vancouver Titans social media has been good, apart from the situation that happened recently, but like when they make meme tweets, like they're very good. Boston Uprising 2 played into their like the team narrative from like the off season to the actual regular season. They played off that so hard, and they had like, you know, beef with the Titans social media, and it was dude, like recently
the Vancouver Titans, I think I haven't followed Overwatch League in a while, but I'm assuming the jumpstart of their social media, like arc, which I'm assuming is pretty high right now, is the breadsticks. The best accidental activation. I believe it was 2020 when they were just horrible, but they just had this breadsticks activation with Pizza Hut that just blew up. I think it's partially due to Platchat and people like Sideshow reinforce, and who was on the show? You at the time?
Yeah, I mean, you're Connor as well.
Connor, of course. Just carrying the crap out of that. It was a great activation. Shout out to Pizza
It was
Hut.
Insane because Connor's co-stream too. Whenever we were in it, when the Titans were on, it was like that was the meme. It was like the breadsticks game, and then they also made a bingo card as well, and like their social media from there has just been getting better and better as like the years have gone on. And now I think Overwatch League Twitter is in a phase of like they're just clowning on each other, the teams, and then everybody just clowns on the Vegas Eternal, and then it's like all the top teams kind of clown on the lower ranked teams, but then when the Shock loses, everybody kind of clowns on them. Like all these like small little beefs that's going on, and that's the kind of stage we're at right now. But it is so funny. It is so good, and that's what you need. Like obviously with Valorant, it's like Sentinels, but just any kind of memes and like beef on the timeline is just that's what you need to keep people engaged, man.
I mean, that's kind of how the entire infrastructure of Platchat works. Is just we just report on what is going on. I mean, it's basically we're like the Ludwig of esports, kind of, where this is what's happening right now. Like we're just reporting on what is going on and explaining what is going on. It's
Yep.
just like a modern age news outlet for like esports or whatever game we're doing, like with Overwatch and Valorant currently. And the social media and accounts and the beef and the drama and the memes is pretty much what allows our shows to even function. Obviously, the games as well, but
Yeah.
as you know, the Overwatch League and Valorant, to a lesser extent, have really long off seasons, and we need to fill those gaps with something.
Yeah, oh man. Like we've pivoted in Overwatch recently, like rightfully so, and it was kind of like my idea mixed with like Connor's as well. Like we need to start talking about the game as well, like the actual game to kind of drag in some casuals and like, oh, here's the new patch. Like, what do you think? Is it good? Is it bad? Like, what's the good heroes right now? Like, drag that stuff in because yeah, the off seasons come and I'm like, okay, so we can do the next 2 weeks worth of episodes pretty okay, I guess, because you can talk about what happened in the season and then you can do like Platchat MVPs and stuff like that, but then it's just nothing. And I'm like, okay, what do we talk about this week, man? Like I have some beef with another Mercy player on the ranked ladder. Okay, we can talk about that, I guess. Like but filling that time in the off season is just painful
I
sometimes.
do feel like those periods kind of what helps strengthen our show. I think what makes Platchat special over a lot of other podcasts, especially podcasts that just like pop up and then they die, even if they have like really good talent, is because you have those long stretches of just like actual bullshitting just for hours, and you develop like a rapport and obviously a friendship with the people that you're on, and you can fill in that time. And that I don't know, it builds a really good rapport with all the other people on the cast and develops the identity of the show beyond just like we are talking about the game, because a lot of podcasts just appear and it's like we need analysis, we need to appeal to the 0.1% of viewers that want the extreme hardcore analysis. They'll watch the content anyway, but we want to appeal to the tiniest demographic possible because that's us.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I think
that's hard to do in like YouTube videos, like 10-minute YouTube videos, let alone like a podcast where you're sitting there for like an hour. There's a lot of bullshitting that needs to happen, and it needs to happen consistently throughout every episode, throughout the entirety of the lifespan of the podcast. Otherwise, you're like you said, you're not going to build a rapport with the viewers either. You're not going to be, Connor's the funny one, like haha, like Scott's the Rex Pro, and Johnny, does his thing, and I do backflips in the background, like what I mean, like. You have to build that rapport because, man, the breaks are hard, but then also during the season sometimes it's like, okay, some weeks games just happened. They weren't that great. There were some cool ones, but like nothing happened really. Like, yeah, it's doing a podcast for that long is tough.
It's fun though, because you go through those tough periods and you like coast along, you do okay, the viewers are okay, the people that are watching are enjoying it, and then you have episodes where it's just like you just had a banger tournament and all you are doing is just talking about it and just like watching clips. Like it's the easiest content ever, but because you build that chemistry with the other talent and with like the production and whatnot, you are able to produce just extremely easy flowing episodes that just bang. And I credit that, like all of the years that we've done with Platchat Overwatch and Platchat Valorant, to Platchat Valorant growing so well. Obviously the game is doing really well and the show is doing well because of all of those things. And yeah, I really am happy with how things are going. And also, I'm not going to promise anything, but I want to build everything that I have for the Platchat Valorant show into the Platchat Overwatch show. So Solomon or any producer that is doing Platchat Overwatch can just have my exact setup at all times, but for the Overwatch show, everything that I built, but for the Overwatch show. And if we add more shows, add them to those shows as well, because I want it does feel like the Overwatch show is developing a new identity because of all of the changes that happened at the beginning of the last season, I believe, where myself, Sideshow, Bren, and I mean, Matt was gone a long time ago. We just didn't have the capacity to do the show anymore. We just didn't have time. Didn't have time to keep up with the game. Didn't have time to produce it. And I feel like I mean, I just think I see so much potential in the Overwatch show. Like, obviously, you guys are doing a great job with it, but I wanna still contribute in some way
Yeah. No,
and
that's fair.
develop it.
What you make is a bit ridiculous, and let's I want to like jump back to when we lived together in like 2020. That was like my first time like living in the States, and we lived in the Papega house, and it was just, that place was a mess. In fact, when I was scrolling through some of your old tweets, actually, I did stumble across a video of yours that just it actually sent me. It sent me. I'll try and
Let
link
me
it in the
guess. Let me guess
description.
what it is.
Okay, go
Let me
on, go
guess
on.
what it is. Is it? Actually, I don't know if it's public, but is it a video of us with the combined wine and Cheez-Its? No, I
Like,
don't think that's
no,
public.
it's
Okay,
that's not public.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but
No.
one of the last, like the last few months we were there, it was COVID. We're living in a house with 6 people. We're losing our minds. We all are getting along, but we're losing our freaking minds. So there was this grocery store, one of the only places we could go to because none of us had cars. We would go to Ralph's. We'd walk there, go grocery shopping, blah, blah, blah. It was basically all we did outside. One day we went to Ralph's and we saw this thing called, I forgot what it was called, but it was a Cheez-Its wine box. So you know how you
Yeah.
can buy boxed wine? That's depressing enough. But what if
What if it
you
was
could get Cheez-Its attached to that wine box? And that's what we
It
bought, and we
was
just
so
recorded ourselves
degenerate.
taste testing the wine, and it's just the most manic video of all time. I was just eating Cheez-Its out of this wine box and taste testing the wine.
It's like
Anyway,
degenerate.
it
Like
was the most degenerate COVID video I've ever experienced, and I have to show it with you. Maybe you can play it at the end of this video or like during this video. I don't know
I'll
if you
have
want to
to
edit it,
I'll have
but
to maybe edit that in at the end or like during the video or something. Yeah, but that like that's degenerate like enough. But that's not public. The one I found was, do you remember when it's actually just happened to my washing machine, funnily enough, and it just starts shaking. It just starts shaking. And you walk up, you're like in the corridor on the first floor of the house, all the cables are everywhere, and you're walking down, you can hear this. It's getting louder, and then you open the door, and it's just the washing machine like boom, 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 shaking across the floor. Well, it's in a cupboard, but so it's not like shaking across the floor, but it's just shaking and moving like this. Oh my god!
it was the most anxiety-inducing thing because it's just like we have to do our laundry. We have 5 people
Yeah.
or 6 people in the house, plus a couple cats. Poor Scott, his room is right next to this laundry machine. I wonder how loud it was for him, but it was the loudest. It was like a hurricane every time someone did the laundry, and the laundry was going on all the time because we had 6 people in the house. Actually, what ended up happening is because a lot of us are degenerates or were degenerates at the time, we would stockpile all of our clothes and then just do our laundry for like 12 hours one day,
on
and
a
it would
single
just be
day.
a thunderstorm going on that day. And I remember we had someone walk in. It's like, we need to get this fixed. Like, what is going on? And I remember the guy coming in and just being like, oh, it's just not balanced. You just need to like prop it up a little bit. And then he just left. So we tried and it didn't fix it, and we just had to thunder the rental.
Oh, it was rental stuff too.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I completely forgot. Yeah, Jesus Christ, like that was crazy because I like I said, I just had that on my washing machine, and it's just the springs are just kind of messed up now, so it doesn't distribute the weight evenly when it spins. Like that's all it is. Like, and it doesn't cost much to repair it. But like, god damn, man, just some guy coming in. I think it was 2 people. There was another person that came after that and also said the same thing.
Yeah.
And was just like, well, you know, you just got to make sure it's level on the floor. Like the tiles are a bit uneven. And it's just like, bro, trust me. You don't think we've tried moving the thing? Also, it moves itself. You didn't think it would find the perfect level situation in that cupboard by itself, by shaking? Like,
yeah, there's a little
so
dent in the wall from it hitting the wall so much. But you say you miss... You repeatedly say you miss the COVID house. I want to know why.
Okay, so I don't miss the COVID house. However, I just miss everybody living together / like near each other. That's the thing I miss. Is that scenario because it was very fun.
Yeah, we got along, but it was just like, dude, none of us have cars. There's nothing to do. LA sucks. I mean, you still live in LA. I might be living in LA next year. Maybe LA is a little bit better now. But LA at the time during COVID, it sucked.
Yes.
It was so bad in the COVID era. But yeah, that's kind of how Platchat started taking off in that house. We had this big house that we rented out. We split the rent between 6 people, so it was actually very cheap because we
Yeah,
split the rent between 6
considering
people.
where we lived too, like it was a very nice area.
It was in a cul-de-sac.
Yeah, I
It was
mean,
in a cul-de-sac in North Hollywood. It was okay.
yeah. Well, you say that, but like the houses around us were like,
Yeah, we lived near the guy that made Rick
holy.
and Morty.
Yeah, no,
We just
was it Rick and
randomly,
Morty?
yeah.
Or was it Community?
It was both, I think.
Oh, is it the same person? Oh, okay, yeah. I remember when Seth told me, and I was like, oh, I did not know.
Yeah,
that.
we were just walking around. And Seth's like, "You live next. This guy lives in your neighborhood. He made Community." But I'm pretty sure maybe he didn't make Rick and Morty. I don't know his name. I know for sure he got canceled on the internet for being a weirdo.
Yeah.
Anyway, we did live in a nice area, but
It's still LA and you need a car.
it was still LA.
That's the
But
problem.
going back, that's kind of how Platchat got like started. If you look at the old episodes of Platchat, the first episode of Platchat on the Platchat Overwatch channel is just a 4-box with Johnny producing. They don't know if they're live yet. Bren didn't show up to the podcast, so they just have a picture of Bren, and then they're just talking. During all of this, Tip of the Hats, I believe 2016 happens. I'm living with my parents still, we're in Chicago doing a production for a charity event called Tip of the Hats. It went super well, really good. At the end of the event, Sideshow's just looking at me. He's like, "Hey, Kurt, we have this vacant mansion that you can live in for a couple months that the Philly Fusion have." And I talked to Roston, I think he was the GM of Philly Fusion. I think he still is.
Yeah, he is. But it's
Shout out to Roston,
yeah.
super cool. Love that guy.
Yeah,
And I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing anything. I'm gonna move to LA for 3 months, live in a mansion for free, basically by myself. Let's do some shows. Let's do some content. And that's when Platchat went from a box setup to a shitty webcam setup in person. If you go to the Platchat channel, which I recommend you do, go to the old videos. I think it's Platchat episode 13 is the first one I did. I'm not exactly sure. That's when it like leveled up. It's like, oh, the production quality. The comments were like, the production quality is so good. And I was getting gassed up. But if you watch that, it is
not
awful.
Great.
Like
not
everybody's
great.
just crammed into a table. Then we slowly moved to a different room in the mansion. And then eventually the 3 months came up and we decided to go to this big house with 6 people, the gamer room. We wanted to become offline TV. That was like genuinely the plan. Yep. Then COVID hit almost immediately after. So we're like, all right, let's just do Platchat. Let's get the ball rolling. We had this we actually had a pretty decent setup. I didn't really do much production work besides like run the stream and like do some overlays. And then at some point near the end of the year, I'm like, let's just get a little bit better at this. Let's use this Platchat thing as a platform to get better and better. And that's kind of how Platchat became what it is today, through that streamer house, streamer mansion, and the opportunity that Sideshow gave me to live in a freaking mansion. Sideshow and Roston, gotta give Roston his credit. Live in that Philly Fusion house. I don't even know where it was, but it was genuinely a mansion.
Yeah, I've seen
vacant
photos.
Mansion.
It's crazy. Like it was crazy looking at how like everybody is kind of now, especially like after COVID and stuff. And Soul Infernal are now the team. They're not Philadelphia Fusion anymore, so it's like 2 Soul teams. But yeah, Roston is still there. Shout out Roston. We hung out when we were at Seth's wedding in Korea. Roston was there chilling. It was kind of fun. Him and Albert, you know, just hanging out, being managers, talking about players and stuff. That was wicked. That was really epic. Yeah, shout out Roston. Like that's that kind of, and those memories, especially from like 2020. It's crazy to think that was 3 years ago now. Like that's wild. And that was the first time I moved to the US and I was like, I don't know where I'm gonna live. God. I need to live in LA because that's what's needed from me. And then I'm like, I'm like speaking to Bren and Josh, and they're like, hey, we got this house, and I'm like, okay, sounds good. Like, yeah, and obviously then I met you, I met Wyatt, met Scott and Jake and whatnot, and yeah, no, that
it just kind of came together. I remember we met at Sideshow's apartment for some reason. Like you arrived with, I think, all of your stuff at Sideshow's apartment. Because I don't think you had a place to live, or maybe you were living in a hotel for a bit.
Oh no, I was in a hotel with ZP. with ZP
Yeah.
for I think a week or maybe a little bit less, because we were going to do the it's like the what do you call those weeks before the season starts? Like, I don't know, introductory weeks or something. I don't know. But it was like everybody getting together. We going
Like
to
rehearsals and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, but it's not rehearsals. It's like something else. Orientation. I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's a good word. Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Yeah. So it was like orientation, if you will, and like it was me and ZP staying in Burbank, and we had to go to the Blizzard offices and then hang out there and basically wait for these meetings and like, oh, okay, so this is what we're doing this season. This is how it's going to work. Oh, here's your wardrobe. And that, basically it was just me kind of sat there for a long time, like not doing anything, waiting for everybody to show up. And then, and then I helped Josh move. My God, that was
it was you and me.
Oh, it was. You're right. Yeah, me and you moving shit from Josh's apartment and then Beth's apartment to their new one, but then also moving some of Josh's to the Papega house. And oh my God, that day was so long. And then I'll have to save this story for when I eventually get Josh on here. But like me and Josh, like almost dying in a U-Haul truck after not having water or any food for 12 hours.
Wait, what?
That was epic. Yeah, that was really cool.
All right, I'm gonna have to watch that
full story when we.
Jeez.
Me and
I remember
Josh.
we got a U-Haul at a place that, for Josh moving, the only place we could get a U-Haul was some area. It was a U-Haul.
It was
Glendale.
Glendale.
It was attached to like a smoke shop, so there was just bongs everywhere. There was like custom Mario bongs and Rick and Morty bongs. That was the funniest experience ever. And Josh didn't have like an ID with him, but they gave him it anyway. The guy was on something because he just wasn't able to lift his head up the entire time we were trying to rent this U-Haul from him. And Josh, who hadn't driven a car in so long, was driving this massive U-Haul.
Yep.
I don't know what street it was, but it was a very busy street.
It was Glendale.
It up.
It was
Glendale.
It was whatever the boulevard is, main Glendale Boulevard, like that main road, yeah. And it was
for those that don't know,
busy.
Glendale is a pretty busy area.
Yes.
It's a pretty nice area of LA.
Yeah,
pretty
I
expensive.
just got run over in Glendale. Almost got hit by a car. Someone sped through a red light as I was holding McDonald's as I was walking down the thing. I remember specifically because it was when they brought Pokemon cards back to the Happy Meal menu, and I was like, oh, I'll go get a couple. I want to open some packs. And then I'm walking across the road. Giant roads, by the way, in Glendale, huge ones though, especially the main like arterial road. And I'm like walking across the main road, and this car just goes vroom, straight past everybody, and I'm like, holy shit, like it almost hit me. Like I could have died, like straight
If you were to pick a way to die, would it be holding Happy Meals with Pokemon cards in it? Would that be in the top 10 ways to die?
Probably not.
No,
because I don't get to
but you have
packs.
Yeah, what if you open the packs?
If I opened them and then died, like maybe, because then there's a bit of like gratification in like, okay, I actually achieved my mission. I got my cards, I opened them, but now I'm in the grave. So
are you still grinding Pokemon?
Yeah.
The Pokemon collection?
Yeah. I'm
dope.
slowly chipping away at like what I'm like off my list. I have an app now that I track all my, is it Pokelector or TCG something? Yeah. Poker card decks. And I'm slowly chipping away, and it's got like percentages on like how many from each individual set, and then a total percentage of all the cards I'm missing.
That's so cool.
It's fucking awesome, but the problem is, you look at that app and I'm like, I am
so far behind.
Never gonna complete all these sets. Like my favorite set of all time, I'm like 2 cards away from completing the thing, EX Team Rocket Returns, but obviously the most expensive cards are left. So it's like, bro, I can't really. I got all the other cards, but I can't really afford these right now, you know. But it's
how expensive are they?
Probably like $800 a piece.
That's not that bad.
It's not tragic, no.
No, that is really bad. That is horrible. Don't buy them.
Compared to like some of the other cards that I could potentially get to fill out some of my collection, then it's not like the most tragic price tag. But still, $800 a piece is crazy for cardboard. But you know, maybe when I'm a millionaire and I
mean, you are making some serious bank doing some casting. Did you see the tweet about the guy just saying that like casters are the least important?
I quote retweeted it. Yes,
dude. Why is everybody like getting baited by stuff like that?
But
what are you doing? Quote retweeting stuff like that.
It's not a bait. That was the big thing. It's like actually not a bait. That's what he.
Even if it is even if that is his position, it's still a bait. It's still a bait. It's still a bait.
Dude,
Like,
I don't know, dude. I don't think it's a bait if he puts it out there intentionally and like that's his actual thoughts. But I mean, maybe it is slightly because everybody like that. To be fair to him, how there's like 1.2 million views on that tweet, and he obviously ratioed by every single human being under the sun because of how ridiculous that opinion is. And like, it's mostly it's quite a bit ridiculous because he's also looking for work. Like, and that's that's the craziest thing about it.
I think the whole ecosystem of production and casting and stuff is a little jarring. Obviously, I've done content creation pretty much my entire adult life, and then transitioning to doing stuff for Riot. I find that the divide between like production and casting is a little bit concerning, and I think with Riot we've done a good job of like mending that division over time, and we're still working on that. But tweets like that kind of make me feel like that's a huge issue in the entire ecosystem in the entire ecosystem of production and casting. It's a whole show. Like, the show is everyone, not just like casting, production, everything, engineering. I don't know why it has to be such a divide. Like, I don't know for the Overwatch League if the producers are like their own entity and the casters are all like in this green room talking to each other. But that's kind of how, from my understanding, that's how it was for a while for Valorant. And I don't know how it was for League of Legends, but over time we've kind of slowly come together, and I think the product becomes better because of that. Obviously, there's a lot of egos and insecurities on both sides that definitely need to be overcame. But tweets like that make me feel like, dude, everybody is so insecure in this gosh darn industry, where I'm like, whereas with Platchat, like we were talking about, like the vibes are immaculate. No, everybody's just friends. Like, just be friends. And if you can't be friends, just be nice to each other. Like, don't think people have like the worst intentions. Like, that's why I don't like the quote retweet culture. It makes me feel like everybody thinks everyone has the worst intentions with what they're posting. And even if they do, who cares? I don't know, man. Just make some good content. Like, you look at the best content on the internet, which in my opinion, independent content creation will always be better than any sort of mass production, because it has so much more authenticity, so much less people, so many less muddled ideas, more focused ideas, and people working together that are actually like friends. Like, if you look at the best stuff, like the most successful content, like Tarek, you look at offline TV, all of those creators are just small groups of people that just want to interact and collaborate with other people that are interested in each other's content. I think that's like the future of content. And I don't, even though I'm ingrained in the like ecosystem of like high level production, like I'm going to like cool events and doing cool things, I see that being like the end game future of like all productions. Like, you've even seen it in like NFL productions with like the the Manning cast. Have you ever seen that? Like,
no, but I've heard
ESPN
about it.
does a co-stream of NFL games with professional players, and people love it because it's more authentic. They're just sitting in their living rooms just shooting the shit.
Yeah. I think,
anyway, I don't know I don't know how you feel about all this, but I do feel like there is like a weird rift in the overall ecosystem of production and casting.
I'll touch on that in just a second, but I do think there's a space for both. I don't think that the end game is going to be one thing. I think what it's shaping up to be right now is that both things can exist simultaneously. You have like the casting, so like Overwatch, for example, it's a pretty easy one. Connor's co-stream, and then the Overwatch League. Like, you can have those two simultaneously going on and going down. Like, that's more than okay. Like, that's going to happen. Same with the World Cup recently. All the content creators kind of got involved and did some co-streaming, because they don't really touch, some of them don't touch the esports side of things. I sat in with J3 recently and just like talked to him like, oh, you know, Korea has the best players in the world on the team, they're probably going to win this whole thing. Like, and I was explaining about that and like all these other like players that no one's ever heard of, like, or at least on the casual side of things. but then there's also room there for the official broadcast too. I don't think there's ever going to be an end game where there's only one
I
thing.
completely agree. I'm sorry if I came off the wrong way
No,
because I do think
no.
I do think the main production and casting. I mean, obviously, I disagree with that person's tweet. I think casting is like one of the most important things. Like, sure, some people will watch a coach stream without the cast with the casters muted and stuff. But the thing is, if you have really good casters, they enhance the experience like
Yeah,
tenfold.
exactly.
Like, sure, the experience is still good because people are there for the players. People are not there for the casters. The casters can add so much to it, just like production can add so much to it if it's done right.
We're there to add
Um,
value at the end of the
yeah,
day, like
and
over everything else.
I think when it comes to the rift between casters and production that needs to get mended, I think that also needs to get mended with like the co-streaming and stuff. Like I know a lot of people in production are not happy with co-streams, but the higher ups at certain companies are just like, we need these co-streams because they help our numbers. It's a very smart decision. But I think the best future for all esports broadcasts is combining the two in some way, getting the co-streamers involved in the actual broadcast, getting it's basically just basic networking that content creators have done for what, a decade now, that
Yeah,
just
for
needs
sure.
to get incorporated in actual broadcasts.
Yeah, speaking about the kind of rift between the two things, like in the Overwatch League, because we've had a different broadcast partner over the last few years, like it's been difficult in a way to kind of bridge the gap because we had this like Canadian company, and now we've got a studio in Burbank with some like another broadcast company, and we've got a studio now and it looks sick and they do crazy funny segments on the desk. Like I'm gonna rehearse later today a segment that I came up with. Like it's this video is gonna come out after it's been aired, but it's a like stock show, and it's like, oh, like a silly kind of like, oh, this trade happened in the break, like in the break between mid-season madness and now, like this thing happened, is it good, is it bad, I don't know, and like there's like memes and jokes and stuff in there.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that's me just like going,
Is it post producer or is it a live to tape?
It's live.
Or
It's live.
it's live.
Yeah, it's live. Dope. I've made like it's basically just a kind of a bad PowerPoint presentation, and I'm just going to go through it. And we've got this interactive board that is going to be shown on, and there's like
so it's like a telestrator.
But it's got hella tools on it. It's got like you can put fire emojis, you can make fire on the screen, and all this kind of stuff. You can do some wacky stuff on that board, but it's just going to be live. And I'm going to be sat there just screaming at a board about trades that are going to happen or like have happened and stuff like that. And that's going to be super fun. But like the production company this year have like allowed me to do that and allowed like so much more free reign over the product because we have a studio now as well. And like I've never really felt that there's a divide, especially like this year with the production. They're very like hands-on and want to be involved, and like if we don't want to do something, they're gonna be like, okay, sounds good. Like they're very flexible, and it's been some of the best production outside of like official Overwatch League production stuff that we've had in recent times. A big positive is obviously the studio exists, and me and Scott, go into the studio and cast and be there with the desk, which is also like super fun. But
I have a question.
Yeah,
go ahead. Sorry,
I was just going to say I don't see there's much as like a divide as like maybe some of the esports and the way you're kind of describing Valorant. Or how Valorant was.
I'm not throwing shade at Riot or Valorant, any of my coworkers and stuff, but I do feel like sometimes there are too many cooks in the kitchen. And the way I run Platchat is these people are on the broadcast and basically enable anything that they want. I will add my ideas in, but they're not going to change the overall thesis of what they want. And I think sometimes there's too many cooks in the kitchen with production, and they muddle talent's ideas to the point where it's not their idea anymore. This doesn't really happen with Riot very often, but I can clearly see it in other productions where, especially like TV shows and stuff, where it's just like these people are just doing uncomfortable stuff.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel like that happens sometimes? Like there's too many cooks in the kitchen? Because
not in Overwatch.
Not in Overwatch? Because I think the best content comes from small, like you have to just like enable and understand someone's idea and then get on board and just let them lead. Let them lead. Like you can have an idea, you can pitch it to them, but at the end of the day, the person whose idea it is, whether it's a producer or a member of talent, like it should be just theirs, like top to bottom.
Yeah, it's not really a thing in Overwatch at all. Like this whole like stock segment I'm doing, our stonks capital management, like that whole thing, I came up with last year and pitched it, but we feasibly couldn't do it. Like not especially not without a studio and stuff like that. But they've been very like, we should change this maybe if you want to. Like if you don't want to change it, that's fine. We can do this if you need. Or like they're just there to basically facilitate, which is one of the best things about production this year, I think. And they're very good also at coming up with ideas and like silly things that we can do that like enhance the broadcast and not make it like, oh, we're doing desk, we're doing opening of the day. Like, you know, they do all these small little bits and pieces.
You guys are under Esports
great.
Engine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about Esports Engine.
Yeah.
Shout out to Gex from TF2. I know he used to work for them. I don't know if he still does, but shout out to Gex. Shout out to Ito, who does production for them as well. Big fan of Esports Engine. Big fan of the Overwatch League product also. It's a shame that COVID happened because I think the entire landscape of Overwatch would be way different. I think Overwatch is the esport that got hurt the most by far out of any esport because of COVID. Because the plan was to like go to different stadiums all across the US and do live productions. But I think all you guys got to do is Dallas, right? And
I got to do two things, and me and Hex were going to fly out to Miami, but then they canceled the flights the same week.
Oh, it was Dallas and Washington, right?
I did New York and Washington, and because there was a double Washington one, I believe, and then there was the Dallas one. Yeah. So yeah, me and Hex did New York, and then we did Washington. I did New York with Matt and Mitch, and then I did Washington with Brennan and Josh. Yeah. So yeah, but it definitely got stifled the most, which sucks because it would have been amazing having like a studio experience, not studio, sorry, an arena experience or like a venue experience for like all of the homestands like in 2020. But
dude, the amount of work that goes into those productions is unbelievable. Yeah. Like the engineering is just unreal. Obviously the producers and the production is amazing as well. Like I've been to Istanbul, Berlin, and a bunch of other places. I was in Sao Paulo, and just recently I was in Tokyo. And like it's amazing to travel and go to these places, but like the venues and like how different everything is because of how the venue is structured. Every single event is crazy. I don't know how, especially from an engineering standpoint. Like obviously I do some engineering for Platchat, like turning on the lights and making sure like there's no like weird audio feedback in a microphone. But like I cannot believe that we're able to do this type of stuff. Hopefully the Overwatch League can do more stuff in the future, because I think that's just such a huge component to like growing an esport, especially a global one like the Overwatch League and obviously Valorant Champions Tour.
It's different.
I wanted to talk to you about like the production aspect again, because like it's like I said, it's been like a hitch of mine of like going from just doing independent content creation, like just doing everything for Platchat, to be like being a piece of a puzzle. Do you feel like that was like a difficult transition for you to do for talent? Because like for those that don't know, for a lot of these shows, talent are also producers, like in a lot of ways. Like obviously you're not getting into the nitty gritty, but you guys are like building out ideas, which is part of production. Did you find that like a little bit difficult to transition to? Because for me, it was like complete culture shock. Like, oh my God, like I have to request assets instead of just build them all? Okay. Yeah. This is interesting.
Not really. I mean, the thing on my, or like the Overwatch League side of things is, I wouldn't say we're all like, it depends, because I didn't say we're all like producers, but if people want to do segments and want to do different pieces, it's very easy for like the back end people like with stats to kind of bring that stuff up. But a lot of the time it's actually production that's coming up with ideas and like pushing them. And there's been a little wiggle room, especially like with my stuff, like with the stonks capital management thing, like that. I pitched at the very beginning of the year, and we're only kind of just starting to get it rolling now and actually doing it on Thursday. But there's not been, I don't think there's been a time where like everybody's got their own kind of big segment idea. It's more been like accumulated effort between production and talent, or like maybe a few of the talent members are like, oh, can we do a section on this? Can we do, the Shocks Wrecking Ball play, or like something like that, and then they bring it up, and then Johnny does a telestrator or whatever. So it's more of like accumulated effort. But for myself, like I I really like coming up with ideas for stupid shit, basically. And like
Mm-hmm.
I did last year, I did Overwatch, which was like the game show, and I did that, and we did it
Dude,
for finals as well. And we did one for each tournament, and it was like really sick. And they enabled me to kind of produce that, but that was like on the back end. That was to tape and then tape to live, and then we did a live segment of it at grand finals. But I don't know, man. Like it's for me, I don't think there's any divide there. I'm always like, I want to come up with ideas and like want to help produce.
So you don't think
stuff.
there's? Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just like a perspective thing because of doing so much of Platchat where like I'm literally, at least from a production standpoint, I'm just doing everything.
Yeah.
So when you're doing like when you're doing a production time, when you're doing an actual production, like you have teams to like build assets and stuff and like get B-roll and whatnot. So you're just basically building the infrastructure of it and then getting all the resources together and then putting it together, not like actually just creating it all. So it's a lot harder to get exactly what you want because of that. And it's just been a learning process for me. And I think you have been doing a great job with the segments that you've been doing. Personally, I love the gamified segments. Whenever I pitch an idea, it's usually a gamified segment. I'm a huge on like chat engagement and like potentially co-streamer engagement. Like I want them to be like, oh, there's questions on the screen, or like there's something for me to interact with. Let's interact with it rather than just like watch like funny meme videos while we're waiting for the game to start, you know?
Yeah, that specifically was what I wanted to hit on with like Overwatch. Because we ended up doing, because it was put in the show or like a segment of it, and then the full video was actually on YouTube. So it was like helped with kind of the YouTube presence of the Overwatch League as well, because that's something they've been struggling with. But then when we did the live one, I was like not asking the crowd, but like coaxing the crowd in a way as well, and like to give me answers or like say things silly. Like
that's dope.
Yeah, that was really fun. I think that was one of my favorite things to do in the Overwatch League was that. Because it's not really content piece, but like me and Hex did a funny skit in New York where Hex smacked a tray of tea out of my hands as I wore like a tricorn hat and stuff like that. Like that was also one of my favorite moments of Overwatch League. That was
2020, right?
That was 2020, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that was like super fun, and like that was Fish that came up with that idea, and he was just like, you know, it would be really stupid. We could do this, and like we can get you a uniform and stuff. Like that's not really content. That's just kind of like bullshit basically at the start, but like that kind of stuff too is just very funny. Like anything to make someone laugh is what you ideally want to go for, and with the gamified stuff, like that is an easy way to get people laughing, like an easy way to challenge, like put Zoe against Johnny and like put Scott against Johnny, you know, like that's really funny because they end up fighting, and it's
I find so I've been having like a change of mindset when it comes to funny stuff though.
Okay.
At least it really depends on context, because we've been doing a lot of funny stuff in Valorant and with Riot and stuff, and I think it's funny, but my biggest worry, and I've talked to all the producers about this, is like my biggest worry is that it might come off as like out of touch. Like if you're doing like a funny segment, like the pre-show of like a grand final or like a high stakes tournament, obviously you need to fill the time. Like you have 40 minutes to just do an entire pre-show. But I worry that like it might come across as out of touch. And also the risk of being funny is that like not everybody's going to find it funny.
Yeah.
So it might come off as, I mean, it's an overused word, but it might come off as cringe and just generally hard to watch. Do you ever feel like something you make is hard to watch? Because I've definitely been like super on board with some of the ideas that we've had. We make it, we're all excited about it, we do it, and like some people find it funny. I'm just like sitting there like, oh my god, like it was cringe. No, yeah, like that was kind of cringe. Yeah. I mean, obviously when you're making stuff for like every pre-show, it's not always gonna hit. But that's my biggest worry when it comes to like funny content. And I don't know, like I love the fact that the Overwatch League, or excuse me, the like Valorant is just like away from like, let's wear suits and talk and do telestrators and just stand there, and then eventually the game will start. I'm glad that we're away from there, but I think sometimes we go like way too far the other end, to the point where it's like, okay, this is kind of fun, all right, stop, like it's kind of cringe at this point, bro. Like do you ever feel like it's hard to balance like that?
Kind of, but my philosophy on that has always been if I can make myself laugh, or even better, like if I can make, so we're like when Bren was doing it or like whatever, if I can make Bren laugh, or I can make Johnny laugh, or I can make Custer laugh, then it's good. As long as I can make someone else on like the talent team laugh, because I know, like, you know, as you become friends with people, like, you know how to make them chuckle, you know? So if I can just do that, if I can poke Johnny a little bit to make him giggle, like, I know the vibe will be fine and it will be funny to the majority of people. Like, that's how I approach these things. If I can just make a talent member laugh, then I'm good, you know?
Dude, you're a genius. Because that's exactly how I operate for Platchat. Like, if I'm making something that I think is funny, it's usually not that I think it's funny, is that I just know why it will find this funny.
Yes,
So if I press
exactly.
this button and it makes like a pop-up of like Sidesho's bald head with like the Vine boom sound effect, I know at least why it will find it hilarious.
That will be funny.
Which, I mean, we've done it before. I'm gonna give some. Eventually, I will be giving all of that stuff to Solomon. I just need to make it easy for them to get. So that will happen. But I think that's also like a testament to how long the Overwatch League has been around, how long the talent have been around each other, and how long the community has developed. And I think the early stages of the Overwatch League probably had that, and obviously had those struggles of like getting to know each other, knowing what each other like, knowing what the talent like, knowing what the talent are comfortable doing. And I think that's like kind of what we're going through right now with Valorant, with our community, with each other. And I mean, you hit the nail on the head. If you can make someone laugh, you hit the vibe. So even if it's not funny for someone, it's at least like digestible because you know the person is into it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And like, there is a human thing that happens in your brain. If you see someone laugh, you are more likely to laugh, you know? Like, it's just, it's probably like herd mentality kind of thing. If they chuckle, I chuckle, because then we form bond. You know what I mean? Human caveman, like, aha, very funny.
I'm best friends with Tarek because we laugh at the same joke.
Exactly. So if, you know, if I make Johnny laugh, the audience is much more likely to laugh too, because, you know, honestly, watching Johnny laugh is very funny to me. You know, like, I love his little laugh and I love the way he acts when he laughs. It's just very funny, and, you know, people are more likely to kind of chuckle along unless,
Dude,
you know.
I'm taking that philosophy.
Yeah.
You unlocked my brain, because that is kind of how I operate for Platchat, but it never was like condensed into a sentence or a thesis. So thank you, Jaws.
There you go.
Shout out to the deep dive with Jaws cast.
Shout out. Everybody shout out right now in the comments. Press a like on the video. Yeah, no, it's good. And I'm glad, I'm glad as well with production and where you've moved with your career too, because you know how people work and how people operate on like a talent level, and like just being good friends with like myself or like Wyatt and Johnny and Bren and Josh, and you know how to like convey that in an easy way for production to kind of understand. I guess you're like a bridge in a way, because you're just very good friends, and it kind of, you know, like you mentioned before, the divide is just shrinking and you're able to kind of just work together as a team and just a massive little friendship group, which is really important for a broadcast, because, you know, it's more fun for the viewer if everybody else is having fun too. So
Yeah, that's why we're freaking popping off with Platchat. That's why Platchat is, dude, we are not going to need the Overwatch League. We're not going to need Valorant. We're not going to need anybody, because we're blowing up, bro. The Overwatch League needs us. Valorant needs us. And I mean, in all seriousness, again, we were talking about this earlier, but that's why a lot of podcasts just die. It's like, we're going to make this show, and then it dies because none of us are really friends. None of us really want to do it. We just kind of did it, and then now it's over. Whereas Platchat, people behind the scenes are excited to be on the show. Like, they want to be on the show. Because we're all friends. It's mostly just a great way to like connect and hang out, because all of us are so busy. It gives us an opportunity to just shoot the shit about a game we like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part about it, is that when we do go on, it's just like, well, oh man, I can just like talk to everybody, and it's just a couple of hours of just shooting the shit and just enjoying myself and just fucking vibing and just trying to poke fun at each other. Like, that's the best part about it. And I think Platchat does, but on both sides, like Valorant and Overwatch, do a very good job. And it can be reflected too, because there's been a few episodes in the past of Overwatch where like the PvE was like the big PvE, at least with all these hero classes and stuff. Like that was cancelled, but we're getting a new form of PvE. And there were a few episodes in the off season where like no one was really happy doing the episode, but like as soon as the season started, it was like everything was back to normal again. But it was like more outside stresses that were causing us to feel like shit, basically.
I mean,
and, like, you can tell with the vibe.
I can only imagine how you guys feel. Like Overwatch is your baby. I know Overwatch is your Overwatch. I'm not going to speak for you, but is Overwatch like your GOAT game? Overwatch 2? No,
I'd say so. Like if I can't pick like. If Halo 2 and Halo 3 were still running circuits in MLG, you know what I mean? Like, maybe that would be the GOAT for me. And if I could get on that train and cast that and cast, like, T-Squared again and cast... Or, again, I say again, I never casted them. But, you know, if I can cast, like, Gandhi or anybody that was, like, an old pro player, like Karma, like, maybe. But, like, Overwatch, yeah. Like, It's crazy... it's crazy that you say that because I've been thinking about this recently, too. Like, Overwatch is a game that I've played more than almost any other game in my entire life. At this point in my life. And,
you know how many hours you have?
Yes. So
because it shows the in-game hours in that game, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
Does it show the overall hours too?
Yeah, it shows overall hours between all modes, and then it's got you an overall thing as well. And on my main account, I have 1,300, but on my alt account, I've got another 1,000, and my 3 other alt accounts probably add up to around 800. So like a good almost, 4K hours in the game.
Okay. That's a pretty good amount of time. How long has the game been out? Since 2016, right?
2016. And then I didn't really play a lot of Overwatch back in 2016, 2017. It was only like 2017, 2018 was when I really started to play a lot more because I didn't see a path for myself in League of Legends, like casting it and like moving anywhere. So I was like, well, I'll swap with my friend Jake as he does the League of Legends shift and I do the Overwatch shift. And he did the Overwatch shift, sorry, and I did League of Legends. And then we ended up swapping because I was like, I really enjoy Overwatch. I played competitive TF2, not to a high level, but like played TF2 and it was really fun. And I played Scout. That was really cool. I'm going to play Tracer. And, it kind of like snowballed from there. So like, yeah, it's not at the very beginning I didn't play a ton, but when I got the opportunities in casting, I did.
The reason I asked that is because it's just like, it must be so disappointing to like go through that BS of just everything falling apart. Like, it's a shame that like the game is so good, but it's just run by like, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Activision Blizzard, who is getting acquired by Microsoft apparently. So maybe that's a good thing. Bobby Kotick. No.
A big no.
No, he kind of ruined everything. And yeah. I was so excited for Overwatch PvE, but hopefully Platchat was like a good platform. You just speak your truth about how shit things are.
We did that.
That's
for
how
like
it was
2 hours.
with like TF2. Like I had so much hopium. Like Valve isn't like a shitty company, but they're not a gaming company. They're a freaking like software company. They're just they're a tech company.
They're a platform company.
Yeah,
they make platforms.
They sell boxes to people in CS:GO and TF2.
Exactly. Yeah, it was a good episode when we talked about the PvE thing, and obviously everybody wanted us to talk about it, so we spent basically the entire podcast talking about how PvE is going to affect, and like Johnny had some like Johnny's like mad copium or mad doomium, like there's no in between with Johnny, which is kind of funny in some regard, and it was kind of a sad episode in a way because we were talking about kind of this demise of what PvE was supposed to be, but like the higher ups and everything else kind of shuttered that dreams in different ways. There was lots of meddling and all this kind of stuff, and like the devs were trying as hard as they can, but the same devs that are on the game right now aren't the same people that were announcing it, and like no one understands that because they think the same person that's worked in Blizzard since 1993 is now making Overwatch 2. Like it's not the same people, like, and people don't really understand that. Well, obviously we tried to convey that as well, but like yeah, it was a bit of a sad episode. But I've always kind of said this for myself, I don't really like the PvE thing. I can understand that it's a big L for like the Overwatch as a whole, but like I wouldn't play it that much. I'm like way more like comp focused. Like, I'd rather just play ranked. So for me, it's just like, okay, great, because they can then focus on the game, like focus on the PvP side of things. So for me, it was like that. But obviously, that episode was kind of hard to do because of how much people disliked the decision. And, we got some cool, like, PvE stuff coming up soon, but it's nothing as the scale of, like, PvE with Overwatch. And, yeah, it was it was a hard time, I think, for everybody. And like, obviously the Overwatch League caught a lot of flack. And like people, dude, I don't know if you saw this, but people were blaming the Overwatch League. They were like, the Overwatch League, they killed it.
Yeah.
All
Dude,
of the Overwatch League, everybody on that team hates Overwatch and they wanted to kill the thing so they could work on the Overwatch League. I'm like,
the hilarious thing is the community doesn't realize like how things work from an infrastructure standpoint when it comes to production of a game or a broadcast. Because very recently there was like, we've done a bunch of tournaments and broadcasts and people are like, dude, a lot of observers got a ton of flack for the replays sucking. It's like, these observers suck. The replays are so bad this tournament. And the observers were like all over Reddit being like, we are not in charge of the replays. That's a completely different team. That's an EVS team. So it's pretty funny how often stuff like that comes up, because obviously from a game development standpoint, the Overwatch League has nothing to do with the actual development of the game.
Yeah.
It might have like some influence on like the balancing of the game, maybe. But other than that, heck no.
Yeah, it's like a completely different department. Like, there's no shot like we are sat there like, okay, time to make some balance changes for the game. Like, there's talent like in the green room. Like, how about we nerf this character? How about we buff this character? Like, come on. But like, people don't really understand, and the best way to kind of take that is just they don't really know and they don't really care. They just need something to shout at to make something in their life important. Like, that's kind of the whole Twitter vibe kind of thing when it comes to that.
The one thing with content creation that I have trouble connecting with, and I have nothing against people that comment on a lot of stuff online, because especially with Platchat for both shows, the comment and the feedback is like a lot, and it's like 99% positive. So shout out to the commenters that are posting like really nice stuff, or just like even just constructive feedback. But I have trouble connecting with that because I've never really commented on much stuff at all ever in my life.
No, same.
Because I just don't know. I just feel like no one gives a shit, so I don't post anything on the internet except for like Platchat and the occasional Twitter post of me reviewing.
In the grand
stuff.
scheme of things, you're correct. No one gives a shit about.
But the thing is, people read Reddit, people read YouTube comments. I do give a shit, not that much. Like, I'm not going to take it personally. I know people that do take it personally. If you're quote tweeting a freaking thing, you are taking it personally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people do care. And I think maybe, I don't know. I want to know what people think in the comments below. If you comment below, comment why you're commenting below before you comment your comment below.
That's good. That's a good roundabout way of saying that. I like that a lot. Oh, by the way, I just noticed you're wearing a Magic the Gathering t-shirt, by the way. Oh, Evan, dude. Evan,
I found this on the internet, and it was on Growled for like $180. I'm like, I'm gonna lowball this guy. Let's see if he accepts my offer. I got it for like $50.
Really?
Just a vintage t-shirt.
Cool t-shirt. Wasn't Eventide a really terrible expansion?
Oh, it's terrible. Remember. I don't even remember any of the cards. The back graphic is just some horrible common that no one ever remembers, but it has a cool graphic.
Okay, so I do not recognize that card at all. That's really funny.
But it's cool. I like it. I love Magic. You're talking about Pokemon? If you're watching this, get into Magic. If you like Pokemon, if you like card games, if you like board games, play Magic. Community needs more people that play Commander.
When you come back to LA, because me and Mitch have been spamming Commander. Like, we bought some of the new Commander. I bought one of the new Night Commander decks.
I'm going to LA tomorrow. Let's play some Commander.
Let's play some goddamn Commander.
I have a full day off tomorrow. I'm not doing anything. I'm just flying there.
I'm in the studio tomorrow. I've got work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Well, that doesn't work.
Starting the split again. What? Well, if you're free next week after Sunday, we can.
The next deep dive will just be about Magic. Dude, we should start a Magic. There's already Magic.
Platchat Magic.
Platchat. Dude, I've been thinking about expanding the Platchat universe. Like, in a world where like things fall apart and I just lose my career, we're expanding the Platchat universe. I want to do fighting games. I wanted to do Magic, but there's already tons of good Magic podcasts and stuff out there. But like, imagine like a fighting game podcast. Like, I don't know what other stuff you'd want to. Like, what would you want to do? You'd want to do a Pokemon podcast.
A Pokemon podcast, which me and Rose did start doing last year. But our schedules are just so messed up because she does all the Pokemon events, and then we have the Overwatch League, and then it's like dude, getting together for that podcast was like, okay, we'll do it once a month or like once every 2 weeks, and it was just so difficult. We had some cool branding for it though. Maybe we'll revive it in the end, or maybe like we'll do a Platchat
I
version.
like
I don't
that
know.
podcast. I watched it even though I don't
Oh,
play Pokemon at all. I
I
just thought it was
appreciate that.
fun that you just like had little segments, and at the end, like I really like the ending of each podcast where you guys just crack a pack. Like that
Oh,
is
yeah,
so
yeah.
that is so fun. I love watching people open packs of
Yeah,
magic
same.
cards. And the YouTube algorithm tried to push like people opening like baseball cards, like 10 view channels, like oh, I'm opening up this box. Hopefully I get the Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card. And it's just like I have no idea why I'm watching this. I had to like hide those videos because I was watching people open baseball and basketball cards. I love watching people open
that's
cards.
insane.
It's so fun. It's like
It is.
like the baby YouTube channels where like kids are playing with toys, and like those are the most popular kids channels. Of course that's awesome to watch if you're a kid. This kid's playing with a toy that you don't have. It's a sweet toy.
Yeah.
I want to open some cards, but I don't have to pay for them.
I get to see someone crack open $2,000 worth of magic packs. I mean, honestly,
dude, if there was a CS:GO or TF2 podcast, open up some crates at the end. Open up some cases.
Because it's fun, man. Like that's why me and Rose did it. It was just because it was a good time. I mean, I would make one about that or Apex, honestly. Although
Apex is huge, right? I don't know anything about Apex other than it's big. Dude, in Tokyo, I was wandering around Shibuya. I came across Tower
Apex
Records.
Is massive in Japan.
I went to Tower Records. I'm like, Tower Records. Okay, I didn't know that was here. I'm gonna go check it out. Looked at some records. There's like an elevator that goes to like a 7-Eleven that's on the like 3rd floor. But if you go to the 2nd floor, it's just has a huge Apex Legend shrine with like exclusive Apex Legend merch and stuff. Like there's just all of like huge cutouts of all the Apex Legend characters. And like I had no idea this game was that popular.
It's
I played it once. It was fun. It's a cool game, but I didn't know it was huge.
It's definitely, in my opinion, I think it's the best battle royale out there. It's just the ability to just drop in, get guns, fight quick, or like play slow, and like end game is like super fun. Competitive is like really fun to spectate, although it's like nothing. That game, the problem with Apex, I'd say, especially on the esports side of things, is like the esport way of playing the game is nothing like how you play the game in solo.
Really?
Yeah, it's like the most different. Like you could say Valorant.
Is it like TF2, where it's just like its whole own ecosystem that's just separated from the actual game? Because in TF2, the whole ecosystem of the game is just like you join a server and you eat
just
a sandwich is heavy.
I want to
and
play
run around.
spy. And
Yeah,
cloak and
in
dagger.
TF2, it's like you need to have a medic. You have to have 2 scouts, 2 soldiers, and a demo man. Sometimes the scout can switch off, but the medic always has to play medic. The demo always has to play demo. Like you don't have to, but you will lose.
Yes.
You play these specific set of maps that no one plays in pubs because they suck in pubs, but are great and competitive. Is that how it is in Apex?
It's apart from like having to pick certain characters, there was like a point where Gibraltar was like you had to play Gibraltar, you had to play Valk, like but things do end up like getting balanced, and like Gibraltar gets like a counter or whatever, like Valkyrie gets a nerf. Unlucky, I love Valk, it's my favorite character, but it's more like how people play the game. Like people, they have set drop zones. They will call drop zones before, like when the tournament starts, they'll be like, okay, TSM is landing here, NRG is landing here, this team is landing here, this team is landing here, and the bottom of the barrel teams, they have to contest each other. Or like, oh, you want to contest TSM? Like, fuck you, you're not joining scrims. Like, it's kind of crazy in that regard.
What?
Yeah, so like,
doesn't that give teams like an inherent massive advantage?
In a way it can, but like the loot
that's actually kind of a cool meta though.
It is kind of wicked, and like when like, oh, NRG is like randomly or like not any of the big teams, but like this random no-name team or like almost no-name team is contesting TSM for some reason in like Lava Siphon. Like, what the fuck? That's crazy. Like those kind of like, that's kind of BM. Like you shouldn't contest zones like that, or like you shouldn't contest POIs like that. But even like the mid game when people are rotating, everybody just does safe rotates. And like they rotate as safe as they can. They get to like the second to final zone, and that's when like most of the fighting happens. So like into the final zone, into the very final zone when the ring's like closing and it's like 2 pixels and then everybody dies. Like that is like so common. But like in pubs, that doesn't happen at all. And like that's the biggest disconnect, is like everybody has their own POIs, and then also everybody's fighting second to last zone and last zone. Like that's. But for me, I find that quite entertaining.
We got to make a podcast for Apex Legends, man.
I'm just saying, like,
I
this is a conversation we had back in 2020.
I'm just so unfamiliar with, like, when it comes to starting a new podcast, my immediate thought is like, I want to get people that are super into the game, but also are very amicable and friendly with each other. Like, are actually friends. Like, again, that's like the core of like a good show, not even just a podcast, like a good show. You need people that are friends, but I don't know anybody in the community. So how would I start a podcast with people that I don't know? Because, like, unfortunately, like, a lot of people on the internet, like, you see them one way and then you interact with them and they are another. Like, I'm sure you've interacted with a lot of weird egos in the esports scene, or just LA in general. You just gotta
not so much from LA, but like from like esports side of things, yes. Or like I've heard various stories about X, Y, and Z person. It's like, oh, they seem kind of cool, like online and stuff, but then you hear things about, or like, oh, I was in this weird situation at X event and like this person was really weird. Like, you hear a lot of that.
I think that's a part of a lot of us just being like internet people. And then when you're in a job where you're actually interacting with humans in person, your ridiculous internet impulses sometimes transfer to real life, which make you from an asshole to like a very shitty person. I mean, I grew through that myself through Tip of the Hats. Oh my goodness. I was such an internet child, just saying all this weird stuff, not being like a creep or any, just being like an asshole. But some of my friends from the internet had to like set me straight in real life. Like, Kurt, you literally cannot do this in real life. You're being a dickhead. Like, for example, a lot of people on the internet just swear a ton. And like, I remember, I don't know if I was with you, we were just like going to the movies or something. We're just having a regular conversation and we're just swearing our asses off in front of like children.
Oh,
and, like,
we've done that before.
A parent just was like, hey, could you like stop swearing? I'm like with my kid right now. And like, I forgot when that happened, but I think it was like 2016. It like unlocked my brain. Like, oh my God, I'm a degenerate. Like, what am I doing? Like, I can't be speaking like this in public.
Yeah, people call me out for that on Platchat, funnily enough. Like Johnny specifically, because I'm like, oh, fuck this, fuck that. Like swearing like a sailor kind of thing. But it's also kind of where I grew up. Like, everybody kind of speaks like that. But in real life, by the way, don't do that in real life, by the way. I don't swear a ton, actually. And so just let you know.
Jaws is a very, for those that don't know, for those that are fans of the Deep Dive or Jaws cast on Twitter, Jaws is a very upstanding gentleman. He has his life together. He's living his best life. He's very organized. The only thing I have against Jaws is when we were living in the gamer house, the COVID house, you would be multitasking way too much. You'd be queuing up for an Overwatch League game while trying to cook at the same time. And the most egregious example of that is that you've left like raw meat in the microwave multiple times. I just like wake up in the morning, I'm like trying to heat up something like my lunch or something because I was waking up at like noon or whatever, and I just see some raw
My bad. Hey, I've got a ranked game to be in. Yeah, I do. That's the thing. Like, I've explained this before on a podcast or whatever, but like min-maxing my time in real life. Like, you know, in like RuneScape or like an MMO, you're like, I got to min-max every second so I can get most amount of XP. And like, I do that in real life too much.
You don't want to be doing that while you're cooking. I'm not going to say who it was. It wasn't you. But there was someone in the house that left the stove on multiple times overnight.
Oh, the stove being
on overnight. You know who it was?
Yes.
We're not bringing it up. It's okay.
You have been forgiven, mystery person.
You've been forgiven.
But you could have killed us all.
We could have died or just been in financial ruin for burning down a house. Which I'm sure none of us paid for the insurance for the rentals insurance. I didn't.
Don't think so. Hey, I have the excuse. First time moving to a different country properly. So
yeah,
that was my excuse. America, everybody.
Yeah, America's rules. If you've never been to America, come to America. Come to LA. You'll get the greatest experience
you get the
ever.
Greatest. People awesome. Talk smack all the time, but like where I live, at least, it's like really nice. Like I don't live near downtown or anything like that, but like I'm really happy of like where I live currently. Obviously, it's a little bit expensive, but there's a lot of things for me in walking distance, which is cool. It's got its own little pockets of things, you know.
my opinion of LA is that it's the best. It could be the best city in the world if they just removed most of the roads and just had like a good public transportation system.
Yes. Oh my god.
But
Yeah.
because of how awful the roads and stuff are, it is one of the worst cities in the US. Because if you want to go, for example, I was living in Van Nuys and the studio for the Valorant Americas League was in Santa Monica, which is, I believe, 12 miles away. It would take me shortest 20 minutes to get there. That's reasonable, I guess, maybe. To an hour and 10 minutes, which was most of the time. Most of the time it was like an hour and 10 minutes.
For 12
to
miles.
go 12 miles.
Yeah.
I was looking at my Google Map history. I spent 50 hours in my car in April when I was working that. That is more than 2 days in my car.
That's crazy.
Just going to and from work.
Yeah.
No wonder I was depressed. So if I have to work there next year, I'm going to live like right next to the studio because
that's a good
LA
idea.
is not a great place to live if you live far away from work.
Yeah. I mean, I got a car and I recently learned how to drive like last year.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my like big thing. It was like, okay, I finally got a car, and I had that 2004 Honda when I met you in Glendale. Like that was my car, but I've just paid off my other car now, which still cost me like 20 grand, 23 grand or something, which is like good for the car, and it had like 40,000 miles on it. And it was the car that I showed you, the Scion.
Yeah.
And like I've got that now, I paid it off, and I'm like, okay, this is sick. I now have a vehicle, but still like driving to the studio, which again takes 20 minutes sometimes, but then it also takes up to 40 minutes. Luckily, the roads that I drive on, like they're not that bad, so it's not the worst thing in the world. But like it can take anywhere near from 20 to like maybe an hour sometimes, actually, depending if there's like an accident.
How far away is your work from where you live? How many miles?
I don't know. That's the thing. I just don't know. I don't use GPS anymore because I know the route, but I don't know how many miles.
I can respect that.
I know it takes 20 minutes or it takes like an hour. Like it
really
does
so
depend.
awful. How do you stave off like getting depressed? Like, do you just like have like insanely good podcasts, like the Deep Dive to listen to?
Yes, I listen to the Deep Dive on youtube.com/AzureScats. Now I end up listening to music, or I listen to, there's a podcast called the Fall of Civilizations podcast, which is quite good. Yeah. It goes over like the rise and fall of like the Roman Empire and stuff like that, or like some other random
That's
shit.
Cool, but don't you get sick of it after spending 50 hours a month in your car?
Weirdly enough, no. I know, it's really kind of weird, isn't it? I actually don't mind.
Because I feel like at some point you just fall into the copium of LA. I think that's going to be me at the end of next year if I'm living in LA. Like I'm going to hate it initially. I'm going to get depressed, and then eventually I'm going to go numb and be like, maybe that's fine.
It's also probably because I've not been driving for too long, but then also at the same time, I'm like really happy that I'm going to a studio to work. So that kind of happiness and joy is kind of overriding maybe the long, depressing journeys in my car.
I'm just imagining you in your car, just like,
I'm
going to work. Yay!
Default LA driver. F-150 moment. Like,
I don't even know what the default LA driver is doing.
Raging in
just
their vehicle,
sitting in their car,
F-150.
going 3 miles an hour in back-to-back traffic on the 90, or whatever it is. It's not the 90, it's the 1 or whatever. What is the 105? I don't even know what road I was on.
I don't know.
Anyway, shout out to traffic. We should talk about the weather now.
Weather's sick in LA. I had my AC on for the first time ever. That's the one thing that I hate about the States sometimes. I have to turn on the fucking AC because I'm cheap as shit and I don't want to fucking spend money on AC.
You're a little frugal guy, aren't you?
I am very frugal.
I wanna do Platchat Overwatch again. I missed doing it with you guys. You need to come on Valorant. Maybe you can cast Valorant and Overwatch at the same time. Have you ever thought of doing that? Because I think you would be a good. I mean, I think you're. I'm trying to blow smoke up your ass, but I think you're one of the best. I think you're one of the most underrated casters in the scene.
Well,
what do you have to say about that?
I have no
think you are.
comments, but I do appreciate that coming from you, Kurt, honestly. Especially on like the production side of things. It's always nice to hear someone on prod say that kind of thing.
To be fair, I'm a big fan of my own friends, so
that's good. That's good.
You do have a little bit of leverage on that point, but I do think you are very good. Like I think for Overwatch you can do color and play-by-play, but I think you'd be a really good play-by-play in Valorant.
I've always loved the pacing of Valorant and like tac shooters in general. The pacing for me is very fun because it's very like we're going like really low and like okay, so they're setting up for the round, and then when it escalates, you go higher and higher, and then boom, you hit the crescendo. It's like bang, 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 and especially with tac shooters, it's like one tap headshot. It's just like you can really just rattle off some sick lines or like some sick kind of like just commentate on the place. Like okay, he hits 1, 2, 3, gets taken out. Like I've really loved the pacing, always have done. Overwatch is very like almost ADHD sometimes, so it's like action all the time.
That's why I think Overwatch has produced like some of the best casters in such a short period of time, is because of how hard the game is to cast. Like the only other game that I could think of that might be harder than Overwatch to cast would be like Dota, maybe. Like it's just like there's just so much crap going on all the time, and you have to as a play-by-play, you have to describe what is going on while it's happening super fast. Like as a viewer, I have no idea who's going to win a fight, but as a play-by-play, you have to basically illustrate like why they are winning the fight right now, why it's happening, while it's happening. And then color, you get like what, 20 seconds to explain what the fuck just happened before the next fight happens again.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's like insane. Like in League of Legends, that's not a thing. Like
in League of Legends, you have just 3 casters, just like actually, do they do 4 casters? They do 3 casters.
They do 3 for like world finals and stuff like that, which is crazy. They'll have 2 colors in the play-by-play, but League of Legends is like not big
to
fight,
say that it's not hard
fight.
though.
No,
I think with like the pacing of League of Legends and the pacing of games like tac shooters, it puts more pressures on casters to be more of like storytellers and like contextualize what the stakes are and go into different areas of casting that are more like macro, I guess. Like what does it mean in regards to like the tournament, like, or what does it mean in regards to the whole league, and obviously like personal storylines and whatnot. And obviously, when you have those big moments, you got to hit them. You know what I mean? Like they don't happen as often as they do in Overwatch. So the pressure is on. When those big moments happen, you don't want to be fumbling over your words.
Yeah. Well, that's the big thing for play-by-plays, and that's what play-by-plays live for, right? Is those big, like, bang, it happens. Like something crazy. Someone hits like a double with an op or something like that. Like like that's what you live for, like the adrenaline rush. And like the same thing in Overwatch, but like with Overwatch, there can be big moments, but because it's on the outset, it's quite a hard game to not only like spectate, but to cast too, because there are so many things going on. And like that problem has been lessened in 5v5, which has just been a godsend for the game because it's made the game more viewable and more watchable. And also it makes things more important too. Like individual kills mean a whole lot more in 5v5 like Overwatch 2 than they did in like Overwatch 1. So, you know, picking up, and I put down that a lot to like me playing the game a ton because I play every fucking day. I play like at a decent level too, you know, like, and being able to pick up on those small things and like translating that to the viewer for Overwatch is a lot more difficult than I'd say for Valorant, where Valorant's like, okay, bang, he's dead, bang, he's dead, bang, he's dead, you know, like it's
sometimes rounds literally come down to the guy can shoot the person head better.
Yeah,
obviously there are other rounds where it's just like insane utility uses. Oh my god, like they just locked the other team out of the site without even shooting their guns. It's sick. There's a lot more dynamism in regards to that. But the thing with the 5v5 or Overwatch that resonates with me is when 5v5 first got announced, people were like, oh no, we're going to be losing the double tank meta. We'll never see this again. It's like, dude, you really miss Reinforce? Wait, what is it? Reinhardt. Reinforced. I'm brainwashed.
Do you really miss Johnny? Johnny is dead in Overwatch 2.
Ronnie. You're gonna miss Ryan and Zarya. Oh no, the bubble on Reinforce, it's crazy. And whatever else happened with like Diva and shit, just like it's just confusing. It's not interesting to me.
Because
I personally hated watching the original Overwatch.
Yes.
Overwatch 2 is so much better to watch, and it comes down to that like individual hero play stuff, man. Like you get to build like from a production standpoint. Like I'm a huge advocate of like hero building and building up stories. Like this is the guy you want to watch. Like they are the one that if they have a good day, I know they're on the worst team in the league or whatever, if they have a good day they can beat anyone. Like we've seen it before, and you can show actual examples. But with the Overwatch one with 6v6, it was just so hard to like really build that narrative and like have evidence to back it up besides like,
Yes.
I guess, like numbers.
It was Overwatch 1 was like just a slugfest. Like
Yeah.
that's what it turned out to be, because at the end of the day, that's why quad tank came around, because if you don't die, then you can contest the point and you can contest objective,
Yeah.
and then maybe you can kill someone else. And that's when goats came around. If you don't die, then guess what happens? You can contest the point. You can contest the objective. Like, if you just don't die, and that's when then they were like, okay, how about Rollock? 2 tanks, 2 support, 2
Yeah.
DPS. Oh, how do we don't die? Oh, we sit behind 2 shields. That is how you don't die.
I'm so glad they got
Like,
rid of most of the shields in Overwatch 2, dude.
in
Oh
Overwatch
my
2,
God.
it's a lot more brawl, and there's a lot more like
Yeah.
killing people, and like
I
yeah,
love shooting people and then when they die.
yes,
Or
there's
like my
still
damage is
shields
doing something.
But like
Like
Arissa's lost her shield, like Ryan is rectangle man, Winston has bubble, but like those things become less of a factor because there's not another tank that can also shield next to you. And then,
shorter
yeah,
time to kill is better for games, FPS games in my opinion. And
yes,
I don't know how far you can take it with Overwatch, but that's why I think like TAC FPSs are so fun to watch, is because the stakes are so high. Like a guy with 1 HP can kill a team that has 400 total HP because they clicked their heads like with 4 bullets.
it's way better.
Total.
Yeah,
Like it's the stakes are always high, the pressure is always high. There's always a chance, you know?
yeah.
I love low time to kill, and I'm a big advocate of hero building. That's what we've been pushing from a production standpoint with Valorant, is just trying to build these players that are good, but they don't really have brands. They haven't really made a name for themselves, but they're good. They might not be on great teams, but they're really, really good. So
Yeah.
we want to get their names on people's radars. So if their team does become good, or if they get traded, this is a big deal. Like this team did improve because they got this player, and you should know who they are by now.
Yeah,
I know. I
mean,
don't know.
that's what's really cool in Valorant as well, is that aspect. Is like this one person, even if they are on a bad team, they can still click heads, and they can still do well, and they can still put up numbers. I would say it's a little bit less so in Overwatch because there's a lot of team play with like all the hero abilities and whatnot. But Vegas Eternal recently, like they're the worst team in the league, and Dove on that team went like nuclear on one map, like was just hard carrying on Tracer, and like he almost 1v4'd this one point, almost. And it was just, even though he died and couldn't get the 1v4, he still killed like 3 people, and it was just like, that was just
unreal,
crazy to watch. Yeah, from like the worst team in the league. And it was just like, that was awesome. And like people talked about that moment, and that's what's really cool. And I love doing that in like casting too, and like building up that single player and like looking at them being like, they are really good, even if they're on good teams or like medium level teams, like mid teams. Like it's really cool to look at that pair and go, they're sick. Like they're really cool. They can make cool plays. And like with Overwatch 2, it's way more apparent when people are sick because there's only 5 people on your team, only 10 people on the map, which is sick. Like I think the majority of people that miss 6v6 are just deluded, like in general. Like there's, dude, come on. Oh,
dude, when Team Fortress 3
double.
when Team Fortress 3 comes out, welcome. It's gonna be 5v5. Welcome Overwatch 2 community that want to play it. It's gonna be the best game ever made.
will be.
Valve is definitely working on it right now. They've been working on it for like a decade. They just haven't told
True.
anybody, and no one knows.
That's why the heavy update's not come out, bro.
Yeah, the heavy up. They stopped doing that. They stopped working on the heavy update, and they're working on Team Fortress 3.
Let's go! Left Dead 3
I had
coming in the same
copium for
bundle.
Team Fortress 3 for so long. I don't know
Oh,
if
really?
that's how people had with like Overwatch 2 or even like potentially Overwatch 3 at this point. Just I genuinely thought Valve was working on Team Fortress 3 for so long. You know how you're saying you had like 4K hours in Team Fortress 2? On my main alone, guess how many hours I have in Team Fortress 2? Only on my
TF2?
main.
On your main? Oh, it's got to be like 6-7K or like something like that.
No. It's like 10.5.
10.5K.
And I think I have like about 1,000 on like a production account.
Oh my god, that's crazy.
I played the shit out of that game. It means so much to me. I wish I love everything that I do. I love my life right now, but I'd be hard pressed not to drop everything I'm doing to just go hard in Team Fortress 3 if that game came out. It's like a huge portion of my life. Like literally 12 years. Maybe
That's
more than that. Jeez. I love that
honestly
game.
mad respect though. Like if that was a reality, which probably not, but it's just like I really
Dude,
respect
don't
every single
shatter
life
my
person in life.
dreams.
I'm not
TF3 is
shattering them,
coming
bro.
out next year.
Okay.
2024 TF3. It makes sense. It'd be a
Yeah, it makes
perfect time.
sense actually.
CS2 will be out. People will be bored of the game already. Like,
Yo,
people are going to be
true.
wanting a new. People are going to get bored of TF2 finally, even though the game is still growing for some reason, even though there's no updates. It actually still is. I think TF2 has like the highest average concurrent players still.
Then
It's
that's
just growing.
ridiculous.
I mean, it's
Like,
one of the
how is
best
that
free.
possible?
I don't know. I mean, it's a great game.
It is a good game, yeah.
Also,
I
it
do
could
miss
just be
playing
bots
TF2.
that are just like farming hats. Who knows?
That's fine. That's fine too. Still
We
numbers,
should
maybe.
play TF2, Josh.
We said
Jaws,
Jaws. All good.
Jack.
I'm whatever, man. I'm just a pile of flesh and bones, bro. I'm just bumbling through life. Do you ever feel that way, by the way? That sometimes you're just bumbling through life and you're like, oh, see what's around the corner, see what's next kind of deal. I feel like in esports, a lot of people feel that way because of how
I would say
ridiculous the year to year is.
I would say when it comes to talent, I think that's part of the divide that I didn't really illustrate my point about the divide between talent and production. I think the main reason it feels that way, at least from a talent perspective, I think it probably feels like more of a divide from talent perspective than a production standpoint, is because talent are basically contracted like year to year, event to event. And I think that's where a lot of the talent insecurity comes from, is that I need to be the best, otherwise I'm not going to get hired again. Like it's hard to get long-term contracts for like Valorant Champions Tour and like the Overwatch League. Those are rare when it comes to esports. Yeah. Usually you're getting hired event to event. And if you're a producer, usually you're working under a production company. Like obviously I work for Riot, and there's producers that work for Esports Engine and other networks that do run leagues and events for companies. But for a talent, you are just bouncing around, just posting on Twitter like, I'm no longer working this event anymore. Please hire me. And I think that's where the divide comes from, because it's just like you're working with a lot of people are working with a lot of different producers, or just not sure what their future holds. Whereas like from a production standpoint, I would say there's more job security. And because of that, I think there's like a lot less tension between, I mean, from my perspective, there's no tension between like any producers I've ever worked with. It's just like, let's just make fun stuff. Yippee, yay. But I have seen tension between talent. And I think it's because of just feeling like you're on your own island, like bumbling around through life.
Yeah. It definitely feels that way a lot of the time. And I wish I could go back. And I think a lot of talent would also wish the same, to go back in time. I wish I could go back in time myself in 2020 and be like, you don't worry, like it's going to be okay for the next few years. Like just keep on going,
Here's a little hug.
Here's a little hug. Here's a pack of Magic the Gathering cards. Just go on your way, son. Go on your way, son. And like, don't worry for the next few years, just keep on trucking, keep doing the same thing, and just like keep on getting better. Because every single year it's like, well, off seasons come around. I want to work. I don't sometimes like you don't necessarily have to work, depending on obviously how much you're paid. But like, you can maybe take the off season off, just wait for the next year. But like, ideally, you just want to keep working. For myself, I just want to cast every day if I could. I just love the craft of it. And like with talent, it's like, okay, next year, great, okay, I'm getting hired, okay, sweet. Am I getting hired though? Yes, okay, I am, cool, okay. What about next year? What is the contract
negotiation? Should I ask for more? Like, how much should I ask for? How much are the other casters asking for? Am I as good as the other casters? Like,
exactly.
Is it weird if I like ask for more, or like should I just ask for less? Like, I want this
job,
where agents
come in,
I don't
to be
know.
Fair.
Yeah,
agents kind of go crazy with that, but like, just the reality of you not having a job next year is like so scary. And like,
like
2-year contracts
in the house, the vibes were like very high tension between a lot of the, like everybody except for like me and Wyatt, because we were just like vibing. We were just there. Like, I was trying to get production work, then COVID happened, and that was not going to happen. And Wyatt was just vibing, man. He was doing his own thing.
Oh yeah.
Wyatt was like buying and selling clothes at that point too. He doesn't now sell you.
He was doing like car parts as well. I remember talking to him a lot.
He was doing that remotely.
Yes.
You should do a deep dive with Wyatt River _ on Twitter. It would be very good. Probably a little bit more focused. I'm all over the place. It's just kind of how my brain works. But Yeah, I think that's something that will never be solved in the ecosystem of like production and talent, just because of just how finances work, and like
Yeah.
everybody's getting paid, and some people just sometimes the economy takes a dump and people can't get paid, so you have to cut people. I don't know. In
It's
a
just
perfect world, you can just have like a 5-year contract and just not worry
exactly.
about like job
Don't worry
security.
about it.
But I do think that's why like you might feel that way, because I kind of don't. At least now that I'm like working with Riot, I feel pretty secure with it. Like obviously there are contract negotiations and stuff, but it's just like it's not as intense. You're not really competing with people. It's more of
Yeah.
just like life situation. Like for example, for this upcoming year, they're gonna want me to move to LA, so they're just like gotta pay the LA tax. I'm sure they're aware of it, and we'll just come to an easier consensus. But for talent, it's just like I don't know. Like there's so
Yeah.
much more stuff involved. Like you're literally competing with other people that want your job. Like say like popular CS:GO casters like I want to do Overwatch now. Okay, good luck. Now
It's
you are all competing against them.
yeah.
Like
And that is always kind of a worry. Although I will say that is so it's way more less it's less likely to happen nowadays when like if another caster from a big game would be like, hey, I want to do this game, because they haven't the game's not new anymore, you know, the league is not new, so it's a lot
yeah,
harder for them to come in. However, they will still be heavily considered if it's someone from League, if it's someone from Valorant, if it's someone from CS, if it's someone from Dota. Like they will be heavily considered over a lot of other people just because of how well they've done in other games and shit like that. But I feel like a lot of the time now that's not really a worry, because different leagues have been going on for so long. It's more of a, well, these people have put a ton of time in and they're good, like why would we kind of give that up? But that's always a fear in the back of everybody's minds, and like
maybe you need to tell that to
it could be dropped.
the like the Valorant talent, because I know there's a lot of stresses with all that stuff with the Valorant talent, and I think it's understandably so, because the game is still
Yeah.
growing, the talent is still developing, like people are constantly getting scouted still, and it's because the game is so young, and it's like
Yes.
we're always trying to find like Riot in their best interest is trying to find the best ecosystem of talent for their respective leagues, which creates competition, but I don't know how healthy it is. And whenever new games come out, it's just like a reset. Like
It's a
all these,
race
yeah,
for
it's like a
a lot of
rat
casters.
race.
It's
I
and
remember that with
that's
Overwatch League
disgusting,
or
bro. Yeah.
Overwatch 2. I remember that with Valorant.
Yep.
It's so strange. And from a producer standpoint, you're just like kind of just like imagine if you're like a lead producer for a new game. Like Riot's making a bunch of games. They'll release a new game. They're like, oh, we want to do an esport. As a producer, you're just sitting like, who do I want?
Yeah.
It's such a comfortable position.
Yeah. And then with talent, it's like, well, if I can get the job, I can pay rent. That would be sick. Like, that'd be freaking wicked, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I think one of the scariest moments over the last couple of years is like I signed a 2-year lease, and I was like, ooh, I feel dodgy doing this. Like, what if? What if?
Yeah.
You know, like that's always like the scary thing, and it's not a nice way to live, but it's also kind of self-inflicted, because at the end of the day, this is the career path I chose, and I love this career to pieces, and I just want to keep doing it because I love the craft and I love the game, and it's just something you kind of have to deal with or get over or whatever. And just
I think it's inherently competitive.
it is
And
very competitive too. Yeah,
it's I have respect for you guys because I wanted to become a caster. I still think it would be fun to do like broadcast work. I think I would love to like host at some point, maybe like an online event. I've already talked to my boss about that, and he's like, yeah, maybe. But I mean, the thing is, the reason it's like, yeah, maybe is because there's already so many good talent to
yeah,
do that. Like, why are you gonna have a producer do it? But I would love to do it. It's fun. It's interesting to me. But it's safer for me because I already have a fallback for like my production work. A lot of talent don't
exactly.
have
Yeah,
that production experience to fall back on, or like any like safe experience to fall back on. But talent work does sound kind of fun. Like
pretty cool,
you do
man.
get that like that like one thing about production that you don't really get is you don't get that like ego booster like people following you. But obviously you don't get that ego booster like people following you, like growing your social media brand,
Bro,
which is part of casting
it
as
is.
well. Like it is actually an integral part of casting is growing your brand. Like that's like how players become popular. Like in Valorant, a lot of the most popular players are not even close to the best players in their respective leagues. It's because they have the biggest streams or like the biggest TikTok. Well, probably the biggest streams, but some are from like TikTok and like YouTube as well. And growing your brand is just super important when you're like on camera.
Yeah.
And that's not something I'm good at. Like people
No.
are not at this point in the video. There's no way.
No, you reckon no
Not
one's
for
watched?
me.
If you have reached an hour and 44 minutes into the video, type in a sentence
Put
with
the
the
pants
word
emoji.
with a pants emoji, blue jeans emoji. There you go. Bam. Whack it in there. Let us know how far you've come, or how maybe. Look, I'm
Maybe. I
expecting
mean,
this video to get
I'm
a
just
million
cynical
views.
and hard on myself. I think that's how a lot of talent are as well. Like,
Yeah.
I think a lot of the best talent are just hypercritical of their own skill.
Yes.
Like, Golden Boy.
Oh,
Like, he is one of the best
yes.
hosts I've ever worked with.
He
He
is
is
the
just like,
most critical
he
human
is
being
just
about
like, dude,
himself.
I suck. I'm like,
It's like,
I don't even know what
saying?
to say to you, man. Like,
It's crazy.
like,
It's
you don't
crazy
suck.
he thinks that.
You, like, you worked with Dwayne, your best friends with Dwayne the Rock Johnson. He's not actually, but he worked with Dwayne the Rock Johnson. He's done like actual TV network work. He is one of the easiest people I've ever worked with in my entire life. And he's like, man, I don't think I did a good job. I don't think I'm very good. So it's like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you?
He is one of the best at what he does, like top of the world, and he's
Yeah.
still that critical. It's
And
crazy.
all of you guys are like that.
Yeah, it's
And it's just
hard.
like,
It's hard to come away.
were you looking for compliments, bro? Like, you're good.
Yeah, it's hard to really come away. I understand it completely because it's very hard to step away from a cast when you finish it and been like, wow, that's really good. There's only been a few times in the world or like in my career that I've been like, okay, that was good. I enjoyed that and I did well. Because like, oh, you messed up at line here. Oh, you could have said that differently. Oh, you literally flipped words around by accident.
One of the things that I learned from all of you guys with like Platchat and just being friends with a lot of talent is like the best talent, and I would say some of the best producers are so good at rolling with the productions rolling with the production when things just fall apart completely. Like being able to like take a pie in the face. If something's broken, just like laughing at it or just like making it into content. And I think that's what the best talent do. Like not necessarily laughing at it, but like going along with it. Because I'm sure you've casted games where it's just like whatever feed you're looking at is just like frozen or the HUD isn't working or it's like 4 FPS. I'm pretty sure that happened a lot during the COVID days.
It did, yeah. The really laggy streams because everybody's trying to use the internet and the whole like the world's infinite internet infrastructure just like dies, you know? Like, yeah, there's been a lot of times where that's happened, or like there's no audio at all, or like there's no video feed but there's audio and stuff like that. Like, yeah, it's wild to think about the amount of issues that like online broadcasts have, like that viewers can't see. But yeah, if you just roll with it,
it's one of those things you have to roll with because from a caster's perspective, like people don't notice how bad things are on your end unless you like make a point to get mad about it or get frustrated about it. And same with a production standpoint, like all of our producers and every producer I know, including myself, like if you cut to the wrong camera accidentally and then cut back to the screen, you're like, oh, fuck, man.
Yeah.
But like if you're just like, they don't notice, like it doesn't matter. So just like rolling with the punches, just like staying cool is like so integral to like making a good product. And I don't think people realize that.
No one at the end of the day, like no one really cares, you know, like you flip to the camera for the, well, you know, and like same with casting, you say something wrong by accident, but like you're saying stuff so quickly anyway that no one notices. It's just like, but you beat yourself up internally. Like, yeah, that's
we're our own worst critics.
Exactly.
When you look in the mirror, you gotta just be like, you look beautiful, queen.
You're doing okay, champ.
Yeah.
Then give yourself a high five.
That might be a little bit too depressing.
No.
That whole situation sounds kind of depressing. It's like you're posting on the internet. It's like you post on Twitter. It's like, I'm feeling super happy today. It's like, oh God, are they okay?
Yeah, they're not okay. Someone should check in on that.
Today is going to be awesome. That's how Threads is right now. Have you seen Threads? Oh my God. It reminds me of like Facebook. I wish it was good though.
I really hope that they expand like the feature set because it could be a better Twitter for sure. My main complaint about Threads right now is that if I see someone else comment on someone's thread that I don't follow, I see the person that I don't follow. I'm like, I do not care. Like, if I really want to see what people are commenting on, I can go to their profile and have a little replies thing, whatever, like Twitter does. But I just don't care if you're commenting on something that I don't follow. Like, I don't want to see that.
Dude, I want to talk about threads. I really like doing this podcast thing.
Yeah, we can talk about threads.
You're good on this pod thing, but I have to go, Jaws. I have a Borpa business meeting.
We have been almost going for 2 hours. So
yeah,
what we will do,
super fun.
What we will do, we'll do a part 2. And in fact, next week, we'll do a commander night or something, because I just bought new commander cards for my night deck. Mitch is getting some new cards for his.
Let's do it.
Next week.
I have 2 decks. I'll bring both of them.
Do it. And then we'll get some other people as well that are involved in the esports scene, and we'll go from there. Kurt, I'll put your links and stuff down in the description below. Make sure you go check out.
Everyone follow me. My content that I post on my Twitter and my Instagram. It is amazing. You're not going to want to miss it.
Kurt has 2 million followers across all platforms. And check out platforms. Check out Platchat, sorry. Yeah, platforms, social media, threads. Goodbye, everybody. Appreciate you, Kurt.
Peace.
See you soon.